Welcome to episode number 413 of the Niche Experience. I am Sean Michael Lewis, and today I want to talk about a topic that I am been getting worked up on, and it's called the war on COVID-19, coronavirus, China virus, whatever you want to call it. Sorry for all you liberals out there if I offended you, but I really want to address this from where I personally believe, and again, this is very opinionated, but, take it for your own 2 cents, and I would love to encourage you to think for yourself, beyond conspiracy theories and all this, but we are living in a crazy year, and this whole COVID-19 coronavirus, outbreak this year has really changed the way we do business, the way we operate as a society, and I think it's something that we really have to look at because I see so much chatter and so much debate about, from federal, state, and local government. And I'm going to kind of start with the local level today because I think they're really doing a bang up job in terms of just fucking stupid. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. I mean, you look at the local government levels, especially when you look at the mayor, city council. And it just makes you wonder, like, how the hell do these people get elected? Because, earlier this year, I put together a blog link, and I'll put a link to that blog or that article I wrote on LinkedIn for you guys to read. But, this is really not something where there's so-called experts on how to deal with a pandemic at this level. And I think a lot of that is because, politicians, they're trying to, especially on a local level, state level, are trying to imitate what they're seeing on the federal level. But, when you look across the board, as Oklahomans here in Oklahoma, where we're based out of, you really have to, think about, what is the role of government, and that's something that I keep replaying in my mind. And, one of the functions of government is to provide, safety, security for the people. And a lot of times people get offended when it comes down to the topic of, okay, let's just talk about a mask mandate and, how effective are masks? And there's tons of data out there. And, I think it all comes down to a personal decision. The mask is there depending on what type of mask you have. And, there's a reason coming out of the restoration industry, you wear certain types of PPE and certain types of mask, and, and it goes down to the basics of, having a clean shaven face and things like that. But, when you really look at the government locally, and I have to, call out some of the bullshit that I see right here in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma with the local council. They've been under a lot of scrutiny because they keep having these mask mandate meetings and they're not really doing anything. They're kind of just doing it to act like they give a shit, but they probably really don't, because several council people like Deborah Wimpy and things like that, when you look up the local politics, are just the things they say are just so fucking stupid. And, when I wrote that report, a lot of it was based around, getting community leaders on a visible panel, a task force, kind of like we've seen at the federal level, but really looking at, talking with local businesses, talking with local doctors, talking with local infectious disease on a state level to try to get that advice. And not just pulling data they read on Facebook or Fox News or wherever they're pulling that from. And I think a lot of that is just spreading misinformation. A lot of these are not experts. These are not experts that run lucrative businesses that have employees. I mean, they might think they do, but they typically use their position in city council to leverage what's best for them. But I think it's really important to think about this. And I've kind of been trying to, look at different examples beyond the pandemic that kind of tie into this. And one of the areas that I was thinking about is, if the federal government, local government, state government, they have a role to protect their communities, to do what's best for their community. And I think one way that we need to look at that is, what kind of information are we putting out there? Are we actually talking to local businesses, seeing what they want, talking to the local restaurants and what's important? And it's different. I mean, I've traveled a lot this year in the midst of everything being shut down in different states and things like that. And some of the things are just like what the hell are people thinking? Like California. I mean, I was just there a few weeks ago, and they only allowed at the time outdoor dining, which they've since banned, but you were relocated to a tent that had covering and sidewalls and things like that, where all the tables seemed to be closer than if you were in the actual restaurant. And that just things like that just don't make sense. Like you're basically building an outdoor indoor facility because the other facility is not safe. But anyway, that's just the point. But I've really been thinking about you look at different elements of government. Like, well, for instance, I grew up in Florida, so when you go to the beach, there's a flag system, and I know a lot of states have different color systems based on how bad the flu or coronavirus might be. And one thing about the flag system is the ocean is dangerous, period. Right? You go in the ocean at your own will, whether there's a lifeguard there or there's not. But they have different flag systems. Green means that all conditions are pretty much neutral. They have yellow when it's a little more rough. You have hurricane flags when the currents and things are really dangerous. They even have wildlife flags if there's sharks or different animals in the actual water that they've spotted. And they don't really tell you can't go in there. I mean, there's some where they strongly recommend against it, but you're kind of at your own risk. So, growing up, we see a lot of surfers and things like that go in the water. Is very dangerous. But that's why you have to determine whether you wear a life jacket. They do mandate or recommend some of those things when you're on boats and things like that. But there are rules and recommendations in process. But it's not the local government's job to necessarily control everything and say, you can't do this. I mean, that's basically called communism, and we can just say a big fuck you to that. But, when you look at, all the money that the federal, state, and local governments are trying to spend and the things they're wasting money on, why are they not looking at different systems and protocols like, a lot of other countries are doing? Like sanitation things, booths or little stands around town, where people can just put their hands under and disinfect their hand, things like that. One of the biggest things that I don't understand is we're dealing with a virus that can live on hard surfaces, that can be spread on hard surfaces, but we're not utilizing the companies and organizations that specialize in this type of cleaning. And it just blows my mind that here, even in Broken Arrow, Tulsa area, we have 50, 100 plus companies that do this type of cleaning. Some of them even have covalent bonding that will actually have a residual on the surface, not really knowing how long it lasts, but they can say 30, 60 days. But even just general cleaning on a weekly basis. I know a company like ServPro has been doing this throughout the community for certain businesses, but it can be very expensive when you look at a cost per square foot. So why aren't the governments working together with these private businesses to say, look, we want to keep our community safer. We want to keep our schools safer, our emergency service workers, so like police, fire, public schools, libraries, things like that. Why are we not engaging with these different companies to have routine cleaning and setting aside some of the budget just to, give away to people for whatever reason? I mean, it's a shit show in Congress right now with what they're trying to pass when we're trying to get a stimulus. But, what are we doing to keep the economy open? What are we doing to protect businesses, especially in this holiday season when businesses rely on this income for the year? So I find it very interesting that the government hasn't utilized the relationships with the businesses that can help protect and be better prepared for this type of thing. And this is going on almost a year now. And it's like they don't think like this. They want to have debates and waste so much fucking time when they really just need to resign and allow people to get in office that know what the hell they're doing. And this is just a joke. I mean, I read the transcripts, I read the articles, and it's so simple. You can bring in the right experts in infectious disease. You can bring in the right companies that know how to do the protocol for cleaning like this. That is approved by the CDC. I mean, those protocols are very clearly written, and it's not hard, but instead they just want to make it a debate about what they think they can tell you to do and what they think they can't tell you to do, and then the general population's not happy. But let's start with foundational things. What can they do with the money they're wasting in God knows how many other areas and actually put it into effective measures that help better prepare it? I'm not saying it's going to get rid of cases, but I mean, you look at the hospitals, you look at schools, assisted living facilities, you look at, government, municipalities and buildings. Why are we not offering, and if the average business can't afford it, why isn't the government helping with some of those emergency funds to offset that on a federal, state, and local level? And it's just not happening. And I know different branches of government have different roles for what they can expense like that, but why aren't there protocols to help keep businesses open and be safer? Why can't they, find ways to mass purchase sanitizing equipment and things like that? I was down in Mexico earlier this year for a getaway, and it was unbelievable how much further ahead they were And these are things that were kind of put in place by the Mexican government. You go to these hotels, they had sanitizing stations everywhere you go. They even had some restaurants. When you walked in, it had a light mist of some type of disinfecting spray that covered you. And I'm not sure what the effectiveness of that is, but there was just so much in place that was more advanced than what I see right here in a well-developed town of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. So, I think this is a big within look. That, I mean, I said this back when I wrote the article. Why aren't they bringing experts in that own these large restoration disaster preparedness companies to say, wow, these are the proper steps. If you don't want to hire a company, here's 1, 2, and 3 things that you can do that are recommended by the CDC, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of misinterpretation. I think it's because we got a lot of fucking idiots in local government, state government, and federal government as well. But this is something I really want you guys to think about in your communities. It's like, as a business, I think more influence needs to come into the local government and say, look, we're going to put together this team to start laying out a plan to be better prepared. Because right now, in most states, most local cities, cases are going up again. And everybody's freaking out, but nobody's doing anything to be proactive with the local businesses and the places where people are congregating and engaging. And I mean, churches are meeting in some states, and other states they're not. And I don't think the answer is to shut down and create fear mongering, but what can they do to better prepare an infrastructure as the vaccine comes out and things like that? So again, it is very troubling to see these local leaders just completely, screw things up. And that's the bottom line, is they just don't have the experience. They don't have the experience, like myself and some of my team members that have worked in the restoration industry and worked around infectious disease and done biohazard cleanups and things like that. But there are a lot of products and services out there that can definitely make things safer. And it's not going to prevent things from happening, but it sure as hell can make things more proactive and more safer for the local community. So would love to hear your thoughts on this and what your mentality is of this. I've been talking about this for months. And it's fallen on deaf ears. And unfortunately, the pride and egos of all these local councilmen and women is continuing to thrive while the population is suffering from shutdowns and lack of business. So, I really do believe it's time for the people to kind of speak up and say, get the hell out of office or start networking and building the right team to help make better decisions for the community. So I hope you guys are doing well. This was definitely the war on COVID-19. Wanted to share my thoughts. I think there's a lot more that goes to this. I'll be sharing later in the next few weeks. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon.